Hello and welcome to Right From the Kickoff with your host Joe Wright, and joining me as always is an excited and I can't really believe I'm saying this, a fan of a newly promoted Premier League team, William Bayliss. How you feeling, Will?
Well, it's been just under 2 weeks since the playoff final, and I think it still hasn't kicked on. I got so excited yesterday because the Premier League app updated and I can finally pick Nottingham Forest to be on my favourite team list. So,
I mean, I wouldn't pick them if you want to do well, but
on the 16th, the fixture list is going to come out and it's going to be crazy. Going to be crazy.
I mean, you even shared with me some potential leak fixtures, which I'm not sure are real because, like I said, I looked at the list of fixtures on that particular list, and I think we were playing Newcastle 3 times in one season. But nevertheless, I'm sure it's very exciting. Now, a couple of questions for you. Obviously, we're going to make most of this podcast about Forest and how you're feeling, of course. So. How just take me back to obviously just under 2 weeks ago, as you say, like how was what was the feeling like in the stadium kind of before, during, and then obviously after? Like what was the kind of emotions that you were going through? Obviously I know you went up with your brothers, your family, obviously your dad as well, so how was the emotion in the camp where you were concerned?
Well, I have to say it was absolutely like a fantastic experience. Like you walk down Wembley where you just see familiar faces just walking down there. Like I've been to Wembley several times, but it's the first time with Forest and the first time Forest have been to the new Wembley, and it was unbelievably special. Like the atmosphere. I walked past Ian Holloway on the way. It was a bit of a bizarrely. I felt remarkably calm game. It only and when I walked through the turnstiles, walked up the stairs, and sat down, and I could just see Wembley. Forest fans sat down all around me, and I was like, "Wow, this is really happening." And then when we started singing Mulligan, like I've been to Wembley before, but it was special. It was so special. But like honestly, Forest fans did themselves a credit that day, regardless of what happened against Sheffield United. It was so special, and I think that helped the team. You know, Joe. Like I think Forest fans wanted it more. Like I know, well, the incident was happened, which I'm not going to get into on this point. I just want to say that it was so special, and like during a game, I felt like it in my whole life. And then when the full-time whistle went, like, I'm not gonna lie, it's like waiting 23 years. 23 years. I was 4 when we were last in the Premier League, so I don't really remember it. So this is the first time I can remember. No matter what happens next season, which we'll come on to, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. As kind of obviously a neutral fan slash not as neutral as you know, because obviously we are rival clubs of sorts, not heavy rivals, but still rivals nonetheless. But I think to see Forest get promoted, obviously was great for me. I have to say actually, and I mean this, but it often tends to be this way. I thought the actual game itself was a very cagey affair.
Yeah, I think both teams were clearly so nervous. I think there was always going to be that one mistake. What would have that own goal? What separated the sides at the end of the day?
You always felt though, and I mean, obviously we're watching it from 2 different viewpoints because you were in the stadium and everything. You felt in the first half Forest were better, and then obviously Huddersfield came into it. Now I want to ask you. Obviously, I know I'm assuming you've watched the instances back.
Yeah.
What do you make of? And this is just try and keep a level head here. I know obviously Forest, you've got into Premier League now, so it doesn't really matter what you've got to say on this, but in terms of how you're feeling and stuff. But what do you think of the 2 Huddersfield penalties that weren't given? Were they penalties from your point of view, or were they just, were they just kind of trying to take an opportunity and
Yeah.
not the referee? What was it for you? Were they penalties?
I think the first one wasn't actually. I think he was going over before, and I think he hung his leg out to try and catch Colback's leg. The second one was more of a penalty, but I can see why they weren't given, because they weren't given at the time. Like the first one, the referee gave it for a dive and booked the Huddersfield player. So I can see why there wasn't enough evidence to overturn it. So if a referee either one gave us penalties, they would have been stayed as penalties. But because he had a clear view, like it's not like he didn't see, he had a clear view of both.
Yeah, but the referee was John Moss. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but Joe, what's your opinion though? Because originally you said that because at the time both.
No, I was purely saying that for comedic value. My opinion still stands from a couple of weeks ago. The first penalty, I don't think it is a penalty. I also don't think it's a dive, but I definitely don't think it's a penalty. I also don't think the second one's a penalty because, as we've discussed previously, and I mean this is me talking as a neutral fan, I thought it was a penalty, and actually I thought it was a penalty sort of 2-3 times after looking at it. But then you see the Huddersfield player make no attempt to actually run after the ball, sees the fact that I believe, I can't remember who it is, but obviously the Forest player's coming up behind him, and he sees the Forest player, runs across his path, makes no attempt to go for the ball, and then collides. So for me personally, if I'm the referee and I'm seeing the fact that he's tried to play for the penalty, not for the ball, this is what football players I think sometimes get confused about. The object of the game isn't to get taken down in the box. I know a penalty is obviously a much desired thing, but it's not a case of when you get in the box you're trying to go down. And I mean, a lot of players now, that's the object that they do have in the box. But it's just the rules are, you're still trying to go after the ball, and he makes no attempt as the attacking player to go after the ball. As soon as he realises that he's got an opportunity to run across the player and get taken down, that becomes the object of what he's trying to do. And that for me is why it's not a penalty, because he makes no attempt to run after the ball. He's not impeded from the ball, which is the object of what he's after. So actually, for me, I think because the players made that decision to go, no, I'm going to try and win a penalty here and not play on, is why John Moss has probably gone, no, it's not a penalty, because you can't justify him trying to win the penalty before he's going after the ball.
Yeah, no, I completely understand, and I think you're right in a lot of aspects actually. But I just want to say that Huddersfield fans who started trashing John Moss's vinyl shop at Leeds is unacceptable. Like, it's sport. We all have decisions against us and for us. Forest have had so many decisions against us this season. It's criminal. Leicester's exactly the same. We all have bad decisions. We all get good decisions. I think it's all swings and roundabouts, but it just proves in this instant that Forest got quotation marks for good luck, regardless of what you think about it. Because on another day, they could have, and some people would say, should have been penalties.
Look, at the end of the day, this is me talking as a neutral fan, and if any Huddersfield fans are listening to this, which I highly doubt, but if they are, then I would like to say all John Moss has done you is saved you the humiliation of getting relegated next season, because you don't have the funds. You're not a big club. You're not. Like,
I just want to say, I'm not saying this. This is all Joe's.
Yeah, you're not a big club. You don't deserve to be in the Premier League. It would have been straight up, straight down for you. Completely pointless you going up. So I'm sorry if you want to come at me. But honestly, I'm glad that you didn't get into the Premier League. Your fan base actually on the day was pretty poor, in my opinion.
It was mostly Forest fans, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It was a sea of red. It was an absolute sea of red. Forest fans really, really giving it up. Obviously, all of that, the passion, the pride, and as much as obviously, like I say, I have a bit of banter with Forest fans. The fan base, on the day were great. But Huddersfield fans, sorry, but I'm glad you didn't go up, just because it would have been boring to see in the Prem. And it's nice to see a new team come up after 23 years. Do you know what I mean? So I was quite happy with the result. And And yeah, stop moaning about it. Get over it.
Yeah.
Enjoy your season in the Championship.
Oh, I'm just glad that we aren't in there. The last 13 years we have been. I thought it was just like I feel like it was just all I knew.
Right,
My life
moving on.
in the Championship with William Bayliss. But
Yeah,
now the harsh
exactly.
realities of the Premier League is really sticking in. So we'll see how the next season fares. So I'm sure you have some questions for me now,
Yeah,
James.
I do. So, right, first of all, obviously, we've talked a bit about the game, talked about how you're feeling. I mean, obviously, that emotion, I bet the emotion as well, just quickly, the emotion when you picked the trophy up as well, I bet that was exciting.
That was unbelievable. And I was there the day after at the Market Square. 40,000 people at the Market Square estimated. And that was just on a weekday. Imagine if it was like on the weekend where like people who were at work could actually go to it. It would have been mental. But what a celebration, and I'm still not over it. And unbelievable.
I've got to be honest. I was quite glad that. I mean, I'm from Nottingham originally. I was quite glad I was in the comfort of Mansfield. It was like a ghost town for us
Well,
lot.
especially because Mansfield didn't get promoted, did they?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving on then. So obviously, I just want to talk about what's kind of being said coming out of the camp. You know, there's already a lot of gossip around Forest.
We've been linked
Apparently,
with every player under the sun, it seems
yeah,
like.
linked with every player. But I want to talk to you about, and you know what I'm going to talk to you about. It's coming out of the camp that it looks like Samba or his agent has come out and said that he doesn't want to be. He has no interest in signing a new contract and intends to leave this summer. That's the line coming out. Whether that's how false or true that is, it's yet to be seen, as we've discussed. But what do you feel about that?
I just want to say that he wants to stay, but I don't think he was valued when he was. From what I've seen and heard, is that he wanted to stay. Leon, was it Leon or and a French club has been monitoring for some time, and they wanted to make him feel special. Now, Samba is a fan favourite at Forest. There's no denying it. We all love him. Was due a new contract anyway, so I think he might, whether he wasn't offered enough, he wasn't valued, he didn't feel like he was made special enough by the board, not the manager, not the team, but a higher up level. I think that's what it is.
Well, I think also as well, just talking about it, he'll feel it just from a personal point of view. Again, don't know the guy, so this could be completely incorrect. But I think obviously with his heroics, especially getting you into the playoff final, he's pretty much the sole reason you're in that playoff final. Because you know he makes a good couple of saves in the Sheffield United game at 2-1 down to obviously for them to get the aggregate lead. Makes some cracking saves, and then obviously does his heroics from the penalty spot. So I can understand maybe if he's feeling undervalued, maybe he doesn't. And obviously he knows how much money Forest have just got from going into the Premier League. So maybe he's thinking, you know, I can cash in here, and maybe the talks and the offers not on the table. I mean, this could all prove to be crap. You know, he might sign a new contract. We don't actually know this yet because it's not confirmed, is it? It's just a lot of rumor, a lot of talks. Tend to be true when there's this much noise around it.
Yeah, especially with the talk being around. I don't know if it's his brother or something, but like he was at the game at Wembley. He was with Samba at the game at Wembley, and he's the one who tweeted it and showed it on his Instagram. So only time will tell. But having said that, Jay Murphy and Cooper to bring in the right players.
Yeah, and I think obviously you've got the nous and you've got the people in the right positions to bring in the right players. Now let's move on. So obviously the situation with Samba is a bit kind of skeptical. Players, I'm going to mention a couple now. Okay, so you've got Zinganagel, you've got Spence. Where do you see players like that going? And obviously Garner as well. He's obviously going back to Man United. Do you feel like the loan system for you, as much as they've got you promoted, could it come back to bite you next season, or are you just hoping that you get a similar standard of player, or some of these players do stay? What do you think? Because
Well,
I did think that even though obviously they've got you up and they've done well and you love them to stay, that's the price you pay when a loanee does so well. The clubs want them back.
yeah, no, exactly. And like, it's different in the Premier League, obviously, because you can only have 2 loans during the season, can't you, Joe? At a
Yeah,
time.
of course.
So hopefully we'll sign Spence. I know there's a lot of talk. I know I spoke to you about it. I don't want to get into it on the podcast, but like, I hope and I think we probably sign Spence, obviously. So who is the auction war at the moment? Hopefully one of our loan signings for this season will be Garner, because I think it'd be Man United would be stupid not to loan him back to Forest in this scenario, because he can be tested in the Premier League. He obviously thrives under the management of Cooper. We all love him. Like, hopefully those 2 players will be a dead cert for us to get one alone, one signing.
And for me, just going on to Gardner, he. I don't obviously Man United themselves. If you look at his parent club, obviously you look at them. They're in the midst of a massive rebuild. And I don't think I'm not being funny, but he might sit there and fancy his chances at United. He's a good player, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think he's ready for that point in his career. And like you say, if he gets a season on loan at Nottingham Forest, and gets the Premier League experience, and you can really see him test himself, because obviously he's been fantastic in the Championship, but I'll always say this, and I'm not saying this to have a dig or anything, but the Championship and Premier League are just 2 different levels for a reason. I mean, sounds like I'm being obvious, but just in the way the football's played is completely different. So it's just about how they can match the intensity of the Premier League.
Yeah, 100%.
So hopefully you can do it for you. I do think you will side Jed Spence. I know I said before the podcast you wouldn't. That was just to wind you up.
You do it a lot.
But I think the thing that Forest have got in their locker with that particular one. So say if Forest get a bid matched. So say if they go 20 million and Tottenham go 20 million and they won't go any higher. So say if Spencer's got 2 clubs that he can pick from, one, he's definitely going to get more game time at Forest. He's going to be first choice. Whereas I think obviously if he was to go to Tottenham, I think if Spence had the choice of which club he'd be at next season, it'd be Forest. So I think that's what's going in your mind. But obviously, football isn't about what the player wants now. It's all about how much money's put on the table, and then whatever Middlesbrough get. If Tottenham were to go, right, we'll give you 25, and Forest couldn't match that. Bear in mind, Forest have got a budget of 100 million this season, if you believe the reports. So it's
but Joe, I got a question for you. Do you think that's enough?
No, I don't. I don't. I think, but I also think that maybe it's not about who you get in with your money as well. Like you could get some decent loanees in, and I think for me personally, it's how you use the players. It's not necessarily all about money, especially for the first.
No, I completely agree. And Dave Murphy came out a few days after the player final on another podcast and said that that if you have a look in the past, the teams who get promoted and then buy a load like a whole new team don't tend to stay in the Premier League, because you lose the whole team ethos, what got you there, that feel good factor, and they don't gel as well. But if you buy like a few like real quality and buy smart and keep the ethos in the team, then you're more likely to stay up.
I mean, you look at Brentford, for example. Brentford are a massive example of that. And then I have to say though as well, you look at someone like Norwich, is probably the other way. They didn't buy enough to keep them.
Oh yeah, completely.
But I mean, to be honest, Norwich are always fighting the losing battle from the first day. So
yeah, I mean, if you ask me what areas we need to improve, I say if we keep Samba, that's great. Buy Spence. I think probably need another centre back, because I think what Borrell and McKenna are a good partnership. I think McKenna's good enough. I think Worrell, they just need to be tested at this level at the end of the day because you don't know until they're in that situation. Obviously, we need a left back. We need a winger, maybe two. We need a good. I'm just going through all the positions. If we keep going, that's great. But I think we need a good holding midfielder because I'm not sure if Yates would be good enough for the Premier League. He could prove me wrong. I love Ryan Yates to death, but I'm not sure if he's good enough for the Premier League. And obviously, we need I think what we spend the most on is a proven goal scorer.
The problem is you've got is, and I say this, so let's just say, for example, you know how you had a diabolical start to last season. Again, I know the setup's completely different. I don't believe this will happen for 1 second. But let's just say worst case scenario, and you have the same sort of start to the Premier League season as you did last Championship season. You won't come back from that. You will not come back from that. So you need to obviously start strong. And I think honestly, you'll pick, like most promoted teams, your home form is going to be massive. But I honestly think that that's where you'll get most of your points.
Yeah, no, I agree because hopefully we can make it into round. Not a fortress because it's really hard in the Premier League. You know how hard it is, but like a hard place to come.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you look at the two FA Cup. You know, you knocked out 2 Premier League teams in the FA Cup, including my own, very convincingly as well. And I think what you had in your locker in those 2 games, you were at home, and you made that atmosphere a cauldron. You made it horrible to play in. Genuinely, I think I remember thinking after sort of half an hour, we might have been 2-0 down at this point. I'm thinking we ain't coming back from this. Not the way the crowd's been and the way you kind of set up and just how we're playing as well. Like, it was a number of things, but I did think in particular on that particular day, the atmosphere was absolutely, banging. So, I think you've got to keep hold of that.
Yeah. So early predictions. How do you think Forest will do next season?
Well, I mean, do you want me to go first? Just obviously because I'm.
Yeah, you go first.
I think it's difficult because again, it's difficult at this point to say because we don't know who you're going to sign. We don't know who you're going to lose. We don't know. Do you know what I mean? We don't know any of this stuff. So it is difficult. But if I was to have a guess, I think I fancy you to stay up.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably go.
Nice little yawn there as well.
Yeah, sorry. I think probably go 16th.
Yeah, I will snap your hands up at that.
16th to 15th. I think you'll have a similar season to. I think you'll be down there. I think there'll be a lot of talks of you whether you might get relegated at some points of the season. Do you know what I mean? I think in terms.
It always happens.
Yeah. I think it'd be stupid of us as not even as neutral fans if both of us were not Forest fans. It'd be stupid of us to think that Forest would go an entire season without the threat of relegation hanging over their head at least at some point in the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think about 16th, 15th. You may even surprise me and finish higher, but yeah, I'd probably put Forest in 16th. If I was to do a table of where I think teams are going to finish, I'll have Forest in 16th.
Yeah, and obviously it all depends on who we sign because we could sign like some world class players out of nowhere. But I think it all depends on the recruitment, if I'm being honest, given the loan. So I'll snap your hands off at 15th, 16th, and that's what I was going to say myself. Like, I think I fancy our chances to stay up. So I'm being optimistic. You know, you have to be. If you put it this way, why would I think we're going to get relegated straight away? You know.
Yeah,
we have to think positively.
It's a clean slate for everyone, isn't it? It's a clean slate for everyone. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Now, obviously, I'm going to ask you to ask me the same question. Where do I think, and where do you think Leicester?
Oh.
Obviously, I know we've not really spoken about it, but considering they're both, our 2 teams, Forest and Leicester, where do you think Leicester are going to finish next season?
Well, at the moment, obviously we'll have another prediction at the start of next season before any games have started, standings as such. But I think you will do better than last season. Like, I think you'll play better, even though you finish. When did you finish this season?
8th.
Was it 8th? Which is a lot higher than a lot of people, like, given the start. And like last season is a weird one because I don't think you played particularly like amazing, but you
No,
managed to finish 8th out of nowhere. So I think that took a lot of Leicester fans, you can correct me if I'm wrong, by surprise. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it did. I remember just going talking about our kind of end to last season. I remember thinking. I looked at our last 4 games. So we had Norwich, Watford, Chelsea, and Southampton for our last 4 games, and I thought to myself, well, we should be aiming for 9 points there. We should be, with obviously playing Southampton at home as well. And obviously, it turned out we got 10 because we got a good draw against Chelsea away. But I remember thinking we could potentially catch Wolves. And bear in mind, a lot of fans through this season have said have been singing Wolves' praises all season. And we finished above Wolves in the end. I mean, Wolves did have a nosedive towards the end of the season. Don't get me wrong, but the fact we managed to finish above a team who was, streets ahead of us at times in that season. But no, it was a good finish to the season. Like you're saying, I wouldn't necessarily say I think we'll finish higher because I think a lot of teams around us are going to strengthen.
But yeah, I'm saying is that I think you'll play better than you did last season.
Well, I'd say I agree with that, with the sentiment. I think we will play better, especially if we can not have the injuries. Obviously, it looks like Tielemans is on his way out as well, which, to be honest, I'm not happy with because he's a good player, but I think he's been a bit off the boil because of his contract situation. I think he thinks he's bigger than Leicester City, which I think a lot of fans would agree with. To be honest, I personally don't because obviously I'm biased. But
like Joe, at the end of the day, no player is bigger than the team. You know, the team should always come first.
I know exactly they should do, but I do feel like Tielemans. I'm not gonna sit here and hate on him though because he gave me one of the best moments in Leicester City's history in terms of our FA Cup win. So, I'm not going to sit here and slander him because he's done a lot for the club since being there, and he is a fantastic player. But I think it is time for him to move on, and it's be interesting to see who we can get in. It looks like we're looking at players from the French league / Spanish league as well. So it's going to be, I think, it's going to be a non-entity in terms of not Premier League proven, but it's kind of what Leicester City do.
Yeah, have a look at Mahrez and Kante.
Yeah, exactly. Both players that we brought in from the French league and lower French leagues as well. By the way, not even the top.
Exactly.
But no, I think honestly, if you could hand me maybe a 7th or a 6th and back into Europe, Conference League or Europa League, I'd be happy with that. I honestly believe that we've got one of the best young centre backs in world football at the moment. I honestly think in about 3 or 4 years' time, we could be potentially talking about. I don't even think he'll be at Leicester at this point, by the way. But 3 or 4 years' time, we could be talking about Wesley Fofana as one of the best centre backs in the world. I'm not saying he is now, but I think if you look at his trajectory and how well he's been playing for us, because let me give you a stat, Will.
Okay.
I think it's something like in the first 30-something games that he wasn't involved, we conceded something in all competitions. Might have been 45 games. I think we conceded 75 goals, something ridiculous like that. Because we conceded a lot of goals from corners, all this sort of stuff. Then you look at the last sort of 12 games played. I think we conceded 10 goals.
Do you think that's down to Fofana himself there?
I think what it is, it's down to having a more solid centre back pairing. It's not a surprise that we brought those two back in terms of Johnny Evans and Fofana, and we've got more of a rigid defence. That is our best centre back pairing by a mile.
because I think they have a balance, right? Because obviously Evans, the Olstead, the experience, he knows what to be where, and Fafana, he obviously has a bit of experience now, but he also has that pace.
He has the
So,
pace, power as well to drive forward and to pick out a pass, which of course we know that with Brendan Rodgers, those kind of players he loves that can take the ball out and are comfortable at the feet, and you'll often see him drive forward into midfield.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I'd probably say I'd be happy with 7th. To be fair, back into the Conference League, it'd be a good season for us.
Yeah, I would have to agree because you are kind of like higher mid-table. Like that's where you are at the moment. Like given other teams around you, you know what I mean? Like you're like better than Wolves, I'd say. Like the last few years for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is, I'm just talking about fans and stuff, and we'll go on to kind of your opinion of Forest fans actually after this, just very quickly. But I think with Leicester fans, and this is the thing, you can always tell when fans have been following a club, for example, for as long as I have, where the expectation is you are very. I'm very reserved with my opinion on Leicester. Actually, when we talk about it, I'm not very boastful, am I? I mean, I have a bit of banter, but I'm not like
that's not your honest opinion.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. Of course, it's not. And my honest opinion is, honestly, if you'd have given me 8th at the start of the season, I'd have probably been like, oh, not as good as the last season, but they've been like, yeah, I'll take it, nice and safe. All this.
Like I completely agree, and I'm gonna put it like this in terms of Forest. I know I'll be snap your hands at the 16th, but say we were like, I don't know, 10th for like halfway through the season and we end up finishing 16th. Forest fans are going to be like really like annoyed because it's like, why couldn't we do well at the second half of the season? Like look how many places we dropped, but you have to look at the season overall. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's all about like having an overall view, which I think you do, Joe.
Of course you do, and I think just going on to that, that's what I mean. Every fan base has them, don't they? But you look at fans, like I'm sure there's some Forest fans and there's some Leicester fans, but there's a lot of Leicester fans that are like, sack Brendan Rodgers, not good enough. We're not playing good enough football, and it's like you need to look at the whole team and the whole season as a whole, like. Genuinely, and I've got to be honest, I look at when we were back in 2007, 2008 season when we were relegated to the League One, or it might have been the season before, 2006, 2007. I can't quite remember, but it was a dark day for obviously Leicester City Football Club.
Yeah,
obviously, I was going to support them, but if you'd have told me at this point in 2022, we'll have won a Premier League, we'll have won an FA Cup. We'll have had 2 5th place finishes and we'll have just finished 8th, right? I genuinely would have been like, well, that's never going to happen. And I told you, you're mad. Do you know what I mean? I genuinely.
Yeah, Joe, you do say that to me quite a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's just all about perspective. Do you know what I mean?
No, exactly, yeah.
It's all about where you've come from, where you are. And people are like, well, yeah, but we're a better team now. It's like, yes, but we're a better team because of what we've achieved in the past. Like, it's all a building block. This is what building history is all about. I've always said that Forest have got a better history than Leicester because of, your European Cup wins, kind of where you were, obviously winning Division 1 titles and all this sort of stuff. But right now, Leicester we are building a history. People will look back at us now and go, yeah, they did win the Premier League. They won a title back then.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That is building a history. They qualified for, the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? That is building a history, and that's what people aren't understanding. This is giving us the opportunity to build our history, and we're doing really well to do that. And I think Brendan Rodgers, I know I've questioned him in the season. I think he's doing a great job.
No, I agree, to be fair. I think if he had a few more losses after when all the pressure on, I think he might have packed his bags. But, credit to him, he's came back and finished in 8th place, so you can't really argue against that, can you?
No, you really can't. Just a quick one then, before we kind of move on, how do you think Steve Cooper's going to do next season? Obviously, I know you're going to be delighted with him, but talking about Brendan Rodgers, I just want to take it over to you and Steve Cooper.
Well, it could be a bit of a double-edged sword here, because if he does too well, he's going to get poached by the team, doesn't he? We've seen that so many times in the past, haven't we, Jay?
Well,
So,
yeah, for sure.
I think we should stick with him no matter what. Well, no, depending on what happens, but even if we haven't started very well, we should stick with him, because I think he's a man. If anyone's going to do it, he's going to do it, because he just gets the club. Him and Dave Murphy are a perfect combination, so I'd say stick with him, because everyone loves Steve Cooper at the moment. You can't not love that man. Even other fans from other clubs have huge admiration for him now. You can't not what he means to the club. He just gets it. He gets what it's like to be a fan. He's one of us at the end of the day, and we're living for that.
Exactly, and I think you couldn't be more right with what you're saying there, for sure. And I think I've got to be honest, I've always said this, but since he's been hired, but I'm really kind of surprised with how well he's done at Forest. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Right, moving on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to say I did call it.
Yeah, you did. You did call it. You called me out on it. Moving on to the PFA Team of the Season.
Okay, so do you just want me to talk through the team?
Yeah, just talk through the team, and then obviously I want you to talk through any changes you would make, and I'll talk through any changes that I disagree with or I agree with what you're saying and who I'd replace or whatever. But yeah, just go through it and then tell me who you would change in that team.
Yeah. So firstly, the team is Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, Rudiger, Cancelo. In midfield is De Bruyne, Thiago, Bernardo Silva, and up front is the front three of Mane, Ronaldo, and Salah. Now, in that team, there's 6 Liverpool players, 3 Man City players, 1 Chelsea player, and 1 Man United player. So, I don't know how Son is not in that team. He's not on penalties. He hasn't scored 1 penalty, yet he's joint top goal scorer. So, for me, he should be in there for Mane. Thiago, because he was injured for quite a bit of the season, and yes, he's been world class, but I don't think he deserves to be in there. So for me, Rodri should be there instead. You can't argue with many of the others, really. You could say Ronaldo, but I think Ronaldo still had a good season. So what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I think honestly, Ronaldo's in there because actually it is in his position. In his position of striker, he's probably been the best striker in the Premier League this season, so that's probably why he gets in. But realistically, I've got to ask you this: are you surprised that maybe Bukayo Saka's not been involved? He's had a great season.
Yes, he has a good season, but sorry, Joe, you're gonna have to carry on for a second.
Yeah, no worries. Will's just dying. No, I was just kind of thinking about obviously Bukayo Saka, and obviously how well he's done. I mean, he's my young player of the year. I think he's done really well, and obviously my opinion on him last season, I didn't think he would be this strong this season. And also he's not an out and out goal scorer, but he's still got a fair few goals. I'm very impressed with him. What I was going to say is I agree with kind of the changes you've made. To be honest, I just don't understand how Son has not got in this team. To be honest, he's my player. So for me, I really don't understand. Again, but I think it's the English media underrating certain players, and Son is definitely underrated massively by the English media. They almost ignore him, in my opinion. They really do. They almost ignore him because if they talk about Tottenham, who do they talk about? They talk about Harry Kane. And then they're like, "Oh, Son's a good player." Like, no, he's not a good player. He's world class. Like, some of the stuff that he does is ridiculous, and I can't believe the disrespect that he gets. But yeah, how he's not, for me, that's my main point. I agree with all the changes you made, and I really don't understand how Son has not even made the team, as well as not even been mentioned for best player of the season. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I'm so sorry, Roger. I had to mute my mic for a little bit then.
No, it's fine, mate. It's fine.
But yeah, I completely agree with that. So I think we should move on finally to a bit of a twist. We'll ask Joe tells. So because I took the limelight with Forest and everything, I thought I would ask a question this week. So my question is, Joe, because Liverpool didn't win the Champions League, or do you think the season has been a failure? That's my question to you, Joe. So over to you.
I mean, we've spoke about this off air, haven't we? You asked me this question before, or like I say, off air. I think, and the word you used actually very, very kind of apt in terms of the situation. Everybody's season's relevant, isn't it? So if you'd give that to me at the start of the season, a League Cup and an FA Cup, I'd probably put it down as one of Leicester's best seasons of all time. You know, finishing second probably would have even rivaled the Premier League season in terms of winning 2 domestic cups and finishing second in Champions League qualification. But the point being is the Liverpool fans, especially on social media, again, love Liverpool as a team, not crazy about their fans. So I feel like because we were banging on so much about the quadruple and we're going to get it, the quadruple, and again, not coming out the camp or anything, they're obviously going to try and get it, but I do feel like with everything that's kind of gone with them, I do feel like there'll be a lot of Liverpool fans that are disappointed. I think there'll be some Liverpool fans that will see it as a good season. But the one thing I will say this to you, Will, is do you think that what is the most annoying thing about Liverpool fans? I know I'm kind of sidetracking a bit here. Is for me, it's like they've got the best player in every position. They've got a fantastic squad, by the way, absolutely fantastic squad. But it's like they just like a lot of the media do it as well. Like they just discount City like a lot of the time, and they discount other teams as well. And it's kind of like, oh, we've got the best this. Yeah, this once in a lifetime team of the generation, one of the best Premier League teams you've ever seen, apparently, better than the Man United team that won a treble, better than this team, better than that team. But yet you've only won one solitary Premier League. Yes, you won a Champions League, but for me personally, the Premier League's the hardest to win. Right? What do you make of that? And also, I do feel like it has been an underwhelming season for Liverpool with everything that was promised. Because realistically, yes, they won 2 trophies, but they missed out on the big 2.
And I think there's a lot of hype. When you talk about Liverpool fans, not just Liverpool fans, I think it's just big club fans in general. Have a look at Real Madrid fans, look at Barcelona fans, look at Man City fans, look at PSG fans. They all have a similar ethos of we're the best, like how amazing we are, blah, 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 blah. It's just that big club thing.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you're still there. Carry on.
Yeah, I think it's that big club thing, don't you think, Joe?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it's whether I think again though it's like I always say this. It's when, and I'm going to kind of agree with your point. It's when fans and stuff have a go at the bigger fans and they say, when like Man United fans are like, oh, this is terrible, this is that. Do you know what I mean? By the way, Leicester City only finished 6 points off United this season.
Yeah.
Which just shows you how poor they were. I would say that they go, oh, we've had a terrible season on that, and you get the smaller club fans, and I've said it in the past, but actually thinking about it, when you say like, oh, you don't know what difficult is, you've not had to kind of fight your way up in the lower leagues, you've not been in the Championship for a 13-year stint, such as Forest. You've not done any of this, but again, it's all relative, isn't it? Because these big fans are used to winning things. these kind of big club fans. But having said that, the reason the big clubs have the most fans is because they are winning things. And I'm going to go on to United. We spoke about it on the podcast before, but I'm going to bring it back to it. When does a big club stop being a big club? Because
that's a good question.
Because realistically, right, United haven't won the Premier League now since 2012, 2013, whatever season it was. 2012, 2013 season. They've not won a trophy for the last 5 years. I personally don't see them winning a trophy unless it's the Europa League because Liverpool and Man City aren't in it. But I don't see them winning a trophy domestically anytime soon. You could say the same thing for Arsenal, though. They've not won the Premier League for God knows how long. I know they've had a smattering.
2005, 2006, wasn't it?
I know 2003, 2004 invincible season. So they've not won it for a ridiculous amount of time. Sort of coming up to 18, 19 years now. We're getting on for 20 years basically. I mean, for me personally, I'm sat here and I'm going, well, where is the line? But having said that, Liverpool didn't win a Premier League for 30 odd years, and they were still considered a big club. So where is the line drawn? Do you know what I mean? Where do we start saying? Because it's all right, these fans and these pundits saying, oh, but look at the history, look at how big these clubs are, look at how massive these clubs are. But it's like, where do we start? Letting other teams.
Yeah.
I'm going to use my own club for example, like Leicester City, for example. Say if Leicester City won a Premier League every 5 years, never going to happen, but let's just say hypothetically that happens. Obviously, Leicester become a big club. Who do then they take over? Do you know what I mean? Say if we won 2 more Premier Leagues and we had the same amount of Premier Leagues as Arsenal, but yet we'd never be considered as big as Arsenal, what it seems like. So how do we kind of split that? What do you make of that?
Well, I think it depends how you define what you mean by big club, because yes, the Manchester United fan base is one of the biggest in the world. There's no denying that. Have a look at the numbers, it is. But when it comes to football, no, they're not. They haven't won any major trophies for ages. So, but I do think if they don't win anything in the next 10 years, for example, which is a long time, by the way, then that fan base is going to get smaller and smaller because you can't sustain it just on the name Manchester United itself. Fans need something, fans all around the world need something to hold on to. You know what I mean? They need to win something.
Of course they do. But it's just an interesting question because it does seem like and it is, and I don't care what the media says, there is a massive monopoly in that. I don't think the media wants any new clubs involved in that big six.
Yeah,
so
yeah. No, I agree, and I think it's easier now to keep hold of the quotation mark big club status than it was, say, 50 years ago, isn't it? Because look at social media, look how globalization, which is a key one here, because these are internationally well-known teams. And look at the use of Twitter, online and everything. That's what causes it. That's why it's easier to be a big club now than it was 50 years ago. It's easier to sustain in the fan bases. They can make money all around the world, where 50 years ago they couldn't, could they?
No, exactly. Anyway, just on those questions, let's wrap it up. But thanks for joining me, Will, as always.
Thank you very much. I think I've just about recovered from my little fit in the middle of it there.
Yeah, well, that's always good. I mean, sorry about that, guys. Will nearly died, but we got through it in the end. What I will say is don't forget to join us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And also, we are going to be running a TikTok account maybe over the summer. I do my own personal videos on TikTok, as you'll well know, Will. But there'll be a smattering of those across the summer.
So yeah, I can't wait to see what the new season brings. I'm really, really excited, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more banter next season, won't there, Jay?
Yeah, we won't be. Let's just say Championship football won't be featuring as much on the podcast next season.
Thank God.